Amazing. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, How to Collect Clean Data and Provide Better Financial Advice. I can speak for all of us and say that we're just really thrilled and excited that you decided to spend part of your lunch hour or perhaps morning or afternoon, depending on your longitude, with us. The turnout is already actually, what are we at? We're well into the hundreds, which is crazy. And again, thank you. We hear constantly from partners that your time is the absolutely most valuable thing to you. So, giving us a bit of that time and attention today tells me that not only this subject is important to you, but it was worthwhile turning up in certainly a busy time of year. So again, thank you so very much. So today's speakers are the three faces you see in front of you in the presentation, also these three faces on camera. We're actually all in the same room today in the podcast studio of the Xero offices. We feel kind of official. We feel a little bit like the gentleman from In the Trenches, I'd say. Hopefully we can provide a similar level of exceptional content and maybe some decent banter thrown in there. In any case, I'm Matt. I'm the country manager for Australia at Hubdoc, and I'm very pleased to be joined by two special guests.
Likewise, I think it's fantastic everybody has joined today. So my name's Stuart. I've been working at Futrli for the last 4 years. I run the sales team, but I've kind of dabbled in various areas within the business itself. A little bit about myself before we get started. I do come from, I guess, an accounting background, so I did complete my CIMA and worked in practice for a number of years before I vacated the UK and came to sunny Australia. And I guess this topic has been very relevant for me for the last pretty much my entire career, and it's a pleasure to be able to kind of share some insights and some value based on the stuff that I've learned over the last couple of years with Tim and Matt.
Perfect. Great. My name's Tim. I'm a senior account manager at Xero, and I have been fortunate enough to work with some really amazing people throughout northwest New South Wales for the last 2 years. That's where most of my partners are based, but I think the really exciting thing about this conversation is how important it is that through technology we actually bring all communities together, all stakeholders together, not just accountants, bookkeepers, and technology, but also our clients. And for those tuning in from the country, stakeholders like agronomists and those sort of things can really join into this advisory piece. So really excited for this talk today, and thank you for a special turnout of my partners that I've sent this round to. So I'm looking forward to getting into it.
Amazing. We had a mention of perhaps an echo. If others can hear that, just let us know. We think it should be okay, but yeah, please do give a holler if you're experiencing any issues. It wouldn't be a webinar without a technical difficulty or two. Perfect. So just some housekeeping before we kick off. We will be sending you the recording, so keep an eye out on your inbox. You can forward that along to anyone who may find it useful. The GoToWebinar control panel is a place where you can ask questions. So you can kind of drop that question drop down and ask any questions throughout the webinar. I will let you know that we're actually going to be doing the question and answer session at the very end. So while you can ask pertinent questions, I think during the webinar, we're going to just run through them all at the end, just so we can sort of keep on topic, keep on track, and get everyone. So it will be just at the end of the webinar. And finally, and perhaps something that's important for us three as well, we're going to close any unnecessary Windows applications, turn off notifications. If you're on a Mac, I believe it's option in the top right corner. We'll actually very quick and easy way to mute notifications currently. You are here, we're taking up a bit of your time today, and so you might as well give your full attention. Perfect. So to kind of set up this topic, it's actually a topic that Tim sparked my interest in a couple of years ago. I think it's something that he's fairly passionate about discussing with his partners. And so what we want to discuss is generally the idea of efficiently capturing clean data, then further along, turning that data into valuable business insights, but definitely an overarching conversation on how an automated clean data set in Xero can enable real-time, high-integrity business advice. The way we're going to be running through that is first and foremost by doing a bit of a Q&A, a bit of a session with Tim. Tim, as I think certainly someone that speaks with partners day in and day out, just has a lot of feedback on a lot of these topics. But after that, we're going to be, I think, showing you the practical demo. So we're actually going to be going through all three platforms and showing you a bit of a taste on how these three platforms can be leveraged. Perfect. So I guess without further ado, we'll actually get into our conversation today. I think my first question for Tim, in your experience talking with your partners, what is clean data? Maybe if you can define what that is and why is it critical for making better business decisions?
Sure. This is an interesting one at the moment. It's really starting to, particularly recently, as more and more accounting firms and bookkeeping practices are moving into this world of data collection. It's becoming a really prevalent issue that we actually understand what clean data is and how to manage it. Back in the day, it was sort of, even when I was in accounting, which is only a couple of years ago now, it was sort of like storage rooms packed to the brim, sometimes not even storage rooms, just the floor packed to the brim with paper and those kind of things. And imagine the same sort of thing happening, but happening digitally. So that's one thing that I always try and make my partners aware of, is that not just collecting the data, but actually making sure that it's filed, it is organized, and that actually is meaningful. It actually has some impact on the client's work. So I guess for me, data that's clean is data that is supported by source documents. There's a couple of reasons that I say that, and one of them being that there is a regulatory requirement in particularly when you're talking about deductions and compliance around capturing certain documents, which I think is something that has been neglected to some extent for a little while, particularly if clients are going to get audited. These things are really important. But it's essentially, for me, it's a massive time saving thing to actually collect that clean data. It validates the data right from the start of the process. So instead of getting to the end of the process, which traditionally is end of the quarter, end of the year, and then having to go back through all that historical data and review everything. It's actually something that you can do on a regular, even daily basis, whether it's using training up your client, whether it's using an amazing bookkeeper, or just in-house within the accounting firm. It's really important to keep on top of that.
So I guess sort of, not that they're not important, but regulatory requirements aside, I guess, what role does collecting source documents play in ensuring data is accurate? I guess what I'm trying to get at is, like, why go through the trouble of getting that data?
Yeah, another good question. I think that, I guess, again, when I was in accounting, it was sort of like we didn't really think of it as a valuable piece of the puzzle, capturing that source document. It was sort of like, as long as we have that information that we can process at the year end, or at the like when the quarterly compliance came around, that'll do. It was that kind of mentality. But I think for me, as we move into this world, particularly heading towards the advisory piece that Stuart's going to touch on later, it really is important to have accurate data and data that can be processed in an effective, efficient, and timely manner. I guess one thing I work with my partners all the time on is getting them to understand the value of management reporting. So I think a few of you are probably sitting there going, yeah, management reporting, great idea, great concept, but the value for our firm to do that is not necessarily there, and which is usually a result of the cost to produce things like management reports outweighs the value to the client, or outweighs the amount the client's willing to pay.
Yeah.
Exactly, and the time cost is well above what the clients are willing to pay for that report. But by capturing clean data, by capturing source documents and processing them through platforms like Hubdoc straight into Xero, which is what we'll demonstrate today, you can make this an incredibly efficient process. And it really does open up endless opportunities for new discussions, new revenue opportunities, analysis, advisory piece. And to be honest, like, there is some risk in that human interaction with the data, which is where I've spoken to a few of my amazing partners again. So just a bit of a shout out to Clifford. I'm not sure if either of you know Clifford from Dubbo, Nicole, my trusty bookkeeper.
Lady in red.
Yeah, Lady in red. She's probably watching in right now.
Tweeting about this. Right
yeah,
now.
probably tweeting about it right now. And Matt as well from Bathurst. So I mean, these guys are some of the best in my region, and every single one of them will say that whether it's the client doing the processing or not, that minimizing that human interaction with the coding of the data will make it cleaner, will make it more accurate, and will save time at the end of the day. So and that's everything that I'm telling you today is coming from my partners. Discussions that I've had from them with them over the last 2 years. And the ones that really seem to be excelling are the ones that are really embracing these processes.
I think the key to that as well is, as you said, by mitigating human error potential, which we're all kind of prone to at various stages throughout life, not just in accounting and bookkeeping, but in fixing that problem or eliminating that problem, well, then the integrity of the data is a lot more reliable. Therefore, you can use the data more regularly. It doesn't have to be at the end of the quarter when you've done your reconciliation. It doesn't have to be once a year when you generally meet the client. If you've got automation or good workflows to help cleanse the data and then make it more reliable, well, then actually you can use it more regularly, which eliminates some of those hurdles which generally stand in the way initially around cost and processing and some of those things you've discussed. And I think it's crucial, especially as the industry continues to evolve because of technology, that the less human intervention required, the quicker and easier you can start to kind of make a difference with the clients that you are servicing in various ways, whether it's personal life or actually if it's a work-related issue that they face.
Well, I guess probably my biggest passion around this is by collecting clean data, by bringing in source documents, by coding that effectively, efficiently, saving time. What it does is it really transforms the whole entire conversation that you have with your clients. I call it the 90-10 rule. Like, if you actually broke down the time it takes for the entire year to collect, collate, file, organize, code, process, whatever it is, all of that information, that's at currently most practices, that's taking about 90% of your time. And then you spend about 10% of your time actually producing reports, actually producing analytics, sitting down with the client. If you're lucky, you're going to go out and visit the client. Like, I remember being in practice and someone would just throw a report at you, like literally as you're walking in the door to have a chat with someone. Like, the difference is that this really transforms the conversation from 90% processing and 10% really getting into the data and talking to the client, to 10% of your time spent on that first half, that processing part, and 90% of your time being able to spend, not just people are coming to me and saying, I have so much time now that I'm actually able to sit down and mentor my team and actually spend time with my team to help them understand why we analyze the client's data in this way. Not just sort of running off to the meeting. They actually have enough time to do other things they've always wanted to do.
I think crucially as well, what it also does is it changes the mindset of the small business owner, who, if we're all honest, between us, they're generally often time poor themselves. They don't necessarily have the knowledge or experience that the accountants and the bookkeepers have. So it also changes the perceived value of the service they're actually receiving, because if it isn't about document management and filing and preparation and bean counting, as it used to be called back in the day, if the actual value is now perceived as can't wait to go and meet that particular person to sit
Yeah.
down, because they're going to give me some information which I haven't understood before.
What am I going to learn today?
What am I going to learn today?
Yeah.
How is my business going to
Yeah.
improve? And what milestones or goals are we going to set? Which
Absolutely.
actually is something
Yeah.
we can achieve. And it's less about the actual, you know, as you said, the filing, the chasing. It's less about the kind of the process
Absolutely.
to get the data clean and integral in the first place.
This is something that, again, like and whether it's like through the basic functionalities that you can get out of the system, or whether it's, you know, taking it to the next level with Futrli. One thing I've been saying to my partners is include like little tiny things that make a huge difference to clients. So in your management report, include an extra page in there, just call it like insights or you know, questions or whatever it is. But a few of my partners have started to do it, and you know, one of the headings might be, you know, insights into technology, insights into the industry. But the next section is just a space where their staff can ask questions based on data they're seeing live, based on alerts that are coming through from Futrli, all those sort of things. And even getting them to put little pieces at the bottom of that information because they have time. So at below the P&L, putting a little note at the bottom of saying, what is a P&L? What does it do? Why is it important? You know, the amount of clients out there that don't understand what a P&L, balance sheet, receivables, payables, all of these things, that's bread and butter to most accountants. Most clients don't fully understand or grasp the weight of these reports, or really even understand, particularly with like cash flow and those kind of things. So using tools to leverage that conversation is something we'll take you through today. But really passionate about it, because it's almost like, you know, as an accountant, we're speaking Swahili. You know, awesome if you speak Swahili, but I don't. And in like, so for clients, they kind of half the time they just nod their head and go, you know, okay. But it'd be awesome if we can really bring them closer to us in terms of.
So that's an interesting thing you brought up from the aspect of trust, right? And I think that's you know, this idea of being a trusted advisor and kind of implementing process at your firm. I guess, you know, how does a firm, you know, in speaking with your partners, get buy-in from their clients to, you know, start jumping into these processes?
Well, I mean, again, a lot of my ideas come from my partners, and Nicole was particularly adamant on this one. As a bookkeeper, Nicole and Monica are really good at educating their clients, spending time not just with the clients but also with the accountants that they're working with. But education is a huge piece of the puzzle. You know, how often have you actually sat down with your clients and taken them through the process from end to end on the technology and said, you know, this is what it does, this is what it means for you as a business, this is how it's going to actually help you. You know, it's not very often that we see that end product as a client from our bookkeeper or accountant's perspective. So actually, I guess education is a big one, and often that's enough to get people across the line. If they understand the benefits, they'll often get across the line. But yeah, again, a lot of it does come down to that trust that they're putting into you. And one thing that really is, you know, super valuable is if they don't, on that education piece, if you don't understand the process, they won't understand the process.
And how much of that is like work up front versus, you know, ongoing expectations?
Again, as you change your processes internally, and you actually have time to sit down with your clients, and you know, and have these conversations, it'll just naturally flow. So I think a lot of it is getting your practice in the right position first. It's really difficult for you to get to sort of get your clients to adopt technology if you're still playing catch up. So that's where we all come in. And I always say this again to any of the partners that I work with. You know, Stuart has an amazing team behind him. Matt has an amazing team. You know, I have an amazing team as well. And so it's not just us that you have access to. It's you know, a wealth of people that you can access. So get your practice sorted, and then when you fully understand it, when you're fully educated, then those things happen organically. You know, you'll set aside time. Will have started producing you know, advisory and management reports, and you've streamlined that process. so you have enough time to actually sit down with the client and talk through the benefits of these things, rather than just a flippant phone call and saying, you know, hey, I think this would be really good for you, and they're just sitting there going, what cloud technology, you know, I have no idea. So and again, that comes back down to, you know, having a standardized tech stack, because a lot of people out there are still running, you know, whether it's an accounting system, you know, they might have 8 accounting systems that they're running their practice off, and you know, they haven't really reviewed their workflow process yet. So, you know, some amazing tools that you could be utilizing are being missed purely because you're so distracted with how many just accounting softwares you're managing. You don't have a seamless end-to-end process. You've actually got all this time being spent, you know, just in the accounting software, and you're missing out on, you know, the benefits of Hubdoc. You're missing out on the benefits of Futrli. You're missing out on things like Xero tax and work papers, and, you know, all these tools that you've never got round to because you're spending so much time on, you know, 8 different accounting platforms, and your team have to spend so much time understanding them and being educated on 8 different platforms rather than, you know, tools that are actually going to help their clients. So for me, that standardized stack, tech stack is really fundamental.
I also think what's important to note as well is, obviously we're all creatures of habit and we're all human, right? So actually, for you to be able to confidently offer a solution or a new process to somebody else, you have to believe in that yourself. So actually, as you said, if you haven't necessarily understood your own workflows, well, then that's obviously an amazing place to start. And I know all 3 vendors support our partners by helping that process be as quick and easy and as pain-free as possible, so that they can actually then turn that immediate value back into their clients and helping them actually fix their own problems. And they're all going to be very different because most small businesses are very unique in their own right anyway. But there is also going to be consistencies, so the process can be repeated and you can pass that knowledge on and train the subordinate staff, the line managers, the client-facing people within the business, or even, you know, back to, you know, the grassroots, the juniors or the bookkeeping staff who are actually going through a little bit more of the transactional and operational stuff from the ground up. That process then becomes a lot more streamlined and it's a lot easier to scale.
That's why I'm so passionate. You know, I can barely speak sometimes because I'm so passionate about this topic. I've seen, we had a Xero Refresh event in Parramatta the other day. If he's listening, he'll know exactly who I'm talking about. But one of my partners came up to me and tapped me on the shoulder, and he, you know, with joy in his face, he said, you know, we're 3 months ahead of where we were last year. You know, and that just, like, you know, I almost want to have a tear myself because, to be honest, that's exactly what we're here to do. You know, they were on multiple systems, multiple platforms. You know, the focus wasn't there. And it took them a year to get there. But he came up to me and just, you know, you could tell that he was just so happy that that process had worked and that he was, you know, ahead of where he was last year by not just a couple of days, like 3 months. So that's, you know, that's what drives me every single day to work with our amazing ecosystem. That's, you know, get onto the marketplace, check out the marketplace within Xero, because it's, you know, these are 2 of the best, but there are, you know, some great solutions out there that people aren't utilizing.
100%. I mean, I think one of the keys, I think, is perseverance also too, because obviously everybody's time poor. Everyone obviously has a threshold or a limit in which, you know, you've got a budget to be able to spend, and that might be the audience today and everyone joining us, or it could be your clients as well, you know. And not wasting money is also always in the back of people's minds. But I think actually with some of these changes and the way the world is generally evolving, these are changes that will be for the long term and not for the short term. So we'll also remember that, you know, you might not necessarily get it right first time of asking, but again, that's why there's a whole network of support around any vendor that you might decide to use to help understand how other people very similar to you have actually alleviated some of those challenges, or peer-to-peer learning. I mean, it's becoming more and more common now that firms are actually in direct communication with one another, which I remember when I was in practice back in the UK, we, you know, behind closed doors, that was it. You know, we shared information internally and not externally. And I think the industry has changed now to be a lot more collaborative and a lot more about the shared success for small businesses,
which
not
is
so much
super
about
exciting.
Individuals. Of course, absolutely.
That is probably, I mean, there's no doubt that the process has moments of stress, particularly for staff. That, you know, they're transition the process, and that's the part that, you know, it really sort of want to make sure that we get that right. But that collaboration piece, the amount it opens up people to not just working with their clients better, but even interacting with, banks, stakeholders, technology. That collaboration piece is so important.
I mean, I think that's the interesting thing to bring up, right? Is this change management piece, and I think this adage kind of relates quite nicely. It takes 30 days to create a habit, and 90 days to break one, break an old one, right? And so if you think about that, that's just that's actually systems ready, implemented, ready in place, right? And so it Rome wasn't built in a day.
No, it certainly wasn't.
It's going to take a lot of iterating and a lot of practice and work. And I'm going to touch on some of this as we kind of swing into the demo portion. Do you have any kind of other questions you want to follow up with, Tim?
I mean, are there any particular workflows that you would, I guess?
Well, I guess, so we're going to work through one. I guess all I want to say to people is imagine the process where you've got a system similar to you've got Hubdoc, and not just Hubdoc, but you're using all the tools within Xero to set up bank rules, to set up, like you've got machine learning doing work for you. It's processing that data, which is then, whether it's the end of the quarter, at the end of the year, it's pulling that information straight into work papers within Xero. Work papers, you're processing, you're ticking and checking, you're processing and pushing through the adjusting journals, which then flow into your reports. Your reports are then produced and pushed straight into Xero Tax. And then from there, you've got all the data you need to go into a system like Futrli and give them the best advisory piece you've ever given them. So I guess I encourage people to really endeavor to pursue this source document path or this clean data path because of the workflow that it encourages.
Sure.
It's kind of, as you start going down this path, it's one step after another. Before you know it, you're actually in that world pretty naturally. And as each one of these steps happens, you'll have more and more people to support you along the way.
And I think the exciting part of what we're about to show is the opportunity it creates for everybody joining us today. Of course, the end goal is to help with the small business clients that we service and helping them be, more profitable, have more time with their family. But also, if those benefits can also fall back onto you because you're not having to spend as much time chasing information or reconciling information or delivering information, well, then actually new opportunities will come from that, personal or business related. So it's really exciting.
Amazing. So, I think that actually feeds really nicely into this template. Now, this is an actual onboarding template that we're gonna shut off our cameras here just so we can kind of focus on the demonstrations. Sorry, everyone. But this onboarding template, it was created by 2080 Financial Services. They are a firm based out of Calgary, Alberta. I actually worked extensively with Kelvin and Twyla before coming down to Australia. So, really excited to be able to show you this with their permission, of course. But the idea of this template is what's their process from client onboarding to the continuous responsibilities the client is in charge of week to week, to then what their firm is doing all the way into tracking back on a weekly or monthly dialogue with the client to track down missing documents, discuss near-term cash forecast, recommend AR to follow up on and AP to pay. And as you can see, this is a constantly, flowing diagram of responsibilities that not only the firm but the client takes part in, and this enables their advisory. This really enables the advisory piece of their firm. So if we actually look in quite briefly to some of these sections here, we were talking about setup in Hubdoc training. If the client is going to be using the mobile app, they need to know how to do that efficiently and effectively. Right? They need to know how to use the unique intake email. They need to be trained on the automated fetch setup in the add account section. The way I like to break these down, especially as it pertains to my business, is I know now, depending on which supplier, I know which avenue I'm using to get documents into Hubdoc. It's very clear to me. As soon as I'm making a payment on something or I'm going to purchase something, I know how that's getting into my platform. And without even thinking, it's arriving in Hubdoc as soon as that transaction is made, generally. And in the case of a bill that I'm paying, that might take a slightly longer, but it's about training your client up on the necessary parts of the Hubdoc platform as it pertains to data intake, right? Now, these directly correlate with their continuous responsibilities, right? If you make their continuous responsibilities simple, right? Snapping pictures of physical receipts, forwarding in email documents, or setting up email auto forward, setting up and maintaining their fetch if they've changed their usernames, passwords, etc. What this does is allow you to get the data efficiently, quickly, accurately, so that you can do your job, right? Tim was hitting on this, but getting that information quickly and efficiently is going to make you seem like the rock star that you are to your clients, right? So this is just, a sample onboarding template. I'm sure many firms have, variety of this, but not only does this help, I think inform how they're going to onboard clients to a platform, but it helps, onboard and assist staff. New staff need to be trained on things just as much as clients. But really, it comes down to laying the foundation, in this training and onboarding, so that the automation will be continuous and felt month on month, so you can really be the best advisor you can be.
And I think that comes back to the education piece we were just discussing, that if you can pass a bit of accountability onto your client who's often late, their expectations maybe exceed the timeliness of some of the questions that they ask, well, then also the education and the accountability piece just means that actually your client's on the same journey with you. It's not just a facilitation, so they understand actually the ramifications of not doing it as quickly as perhaps it could be done, or vice versa.
Completely. So without further ado, we're going to hop right into Hubdoc. Just to set up this demo portion, I'll be showing you a couple different avenues and workflows of getting data into our platform. Tim will be kind of taking over and showing kind of the connective tissue between Hubdoc, Xero, and Futrli before Stu swings in and kind of gets into some more of the advanced features that Futrli has to offer. So again, I've just changed my screen sharing, so hopefully you're seeing the appropriate screen. I believe everyone is, and we're actually going to swing right into this topic. Now, where we generally begin the collection of data piece is in the add account section, right? This is an ability to set this up once with a client and have source documents, really source data directly from the supplier portal automatically collected for you, right? And so it's as easy as encrypted, putting in your encrypted logins to a bank or telco or utility and having that set up and fetch. Now, what we first do is we fetch and we auto file everything available on that portal. Then on an ongoing recurring basis, we're going to fetch new documents that same day. And so the idea of getting a bank statement for end of financial year, obviously there's extraordinarily value in that to make sure that everything is up to date and accurate. But beyond that, we have a number of supplier portals where we allow you to get telco and utility bills automatically. I think if we talk about the automated collection of clean data, certainly these connections, if set up correctly and monitored to the best of your ability by your clients, this is probably the most efficient way to get a source document. Now, what I mean by kind of ongoing monitoring and maintenance is this: there are going to be key parts of your year, quite obviously, quarter ends, year end, etc. If your client is aware of these key dates because you're communicating with them, or perhaps you've set up responsibilities during their onboarding session, what they'll be able to do is come into Hubdoc and ensure their connections are live and working when it comes to that time of year. For instance, I can come in here and click update accounts to rerun a connection, right? In case there's any funniness going on the portal. I can even update my login. So I can click edit credentials in case I've changed the logins to my Bunnings PowerPass portal. Again, I can encryptedly update those logins so that the connection continues to fetch, certainly in times of need for my advisor, right? It goes back to this onboarding and training. How do we best work together? How is this flow going to be simplified and easy? But again, being able to have, my Optus bills fetched automatically into my account, I can say saves me a lot of time and headache. Saves me money even, believe it or not, because they were charging me for that. It even helps the environment, obviously. Now, a couple other avenues I'm going to take here, and I brought this up during the initial conversation where it's saying, great, I know based on what I'm purchasing, how those documents are getting into Hubdoc. For instance, if I'm buying marketing collateral, pull-up banners, one-pagers, I know that I'm getting emailed those documents. And so 9 times out of 10, I'm creating an email here, I'm attaching source documents to that email, I'm then forwarding that in to Hubdoc. The same is true for many airline companies. I can't tell you how many times Virgin has forgotten to forward me on an invoice and I've had to go chase them up for it. In any case, I'm able to download it, I can directly upload it or forward it into Hubdoc in an email. Now, another avenue is I'm buying, it's fine, I'm buying office snacks for my office quite frequently. We've actually just moved into the Xero office, which is exciting, so don't need to buy office snacks so much anymore. In any case, obviously I'm going to go to Woolies and I'm going to snap pictures of documents. And so what I'm actually doing right in front of you, you're not seeing this, but I just snapped a picture on my Hubdoc mobile app of a Woolies receipt, which we'll see uploaded and extracted quite efficiently. And so finally, there is circumstances where I need to upload documents directly. I'll show you an example of that. But the idea being is like, us even being, I think, a tech company, we still have physical paper documents I need to scan into our platform. And whether I'm uploading them directly or scanning them in using my Fujitsu ScanSnap integration, there's plenty of avenues to get those documents automatically into the platform, right? And so the idea of immediate, quick, accurate data extraction, I think automated filing is a piece that I adore and many of our partners adore. It's not just about great, processing these through to reconcile transaction, but it is about peace of mind that I can find transactions quickly, efficiently. Now, the final piece, I think, to this collecting of data puzzle that I do like to bring up as it pertains to Hubdoc is, clean data and source documents are phenomenal as it comes to, let's say, like bank reconciliation. But what if there's a document that isn't transactional? Let's say there is a document that my advisor might need, I might need to keep track of, a leasehold agreement, etc. I'm going to upload a copy of my immigration or my colleague's visa, but the idea being is I upload any type of source document to Hubdoc. It is dead easy for me to name a supplier, to put in a date, to click archive. What happens is that gets automatically filed. It's an auto filing template for documents that are outside of that particular financial document workflow. So when I think of leasehold agreements, when I think of
I love this. I love this feature.
Like literally
so
anything.
Yeah. So this is something I bring up like probably as much as the ability to process through Hubdoc is the fact that you can just send whatever you need through the system, and it will automatically collate and file it, and then archive it, and I'm sure like you can touch on it, but it then copies it to any solution, any document
completely. And that's a great piece too, because I mean the ATL obviously has regulations on electronic storage, 7 years plus. I believe this is still the case. Duplication of documents, so you need them stored in multiple places. And our system, not only with our Xero integration, you can create transactions and attach those transactions to specific attach the source document rather, but we can also push to zero files. We have a host of advisors who say, you know what, I don't necessarily want clearly the bank statement to be created as a transaction, but I like that in zero files. Maybe there's an accountant who needs to see that bank statement, so let's push it through the zero files. They can access it there.
Yeah.
You can back up to Dropbox, Google Drive, or Box literally automatically, which is a really nice and handy feature as it pertains.
But keeping it simple. This is what I love about it. Is like you can over engineer this process, and that's one thing that, like, if you're thinking about adopting, a similar workflow that we're showing you today, it can get pretty exciting. I have probably a handful of partners, one of whom I've mentioned today, who is, so much excitement for technology that he's almost like out there every single day looking for the next new thing. But there is risk in over engineering, and that's why, having a solution that not only, collects, collates, files, stores, and processes, and pushes it through to Xero, which is another solution that you're keeping, it's really important to keep within those solutions as much as you can. Reduce over engineering, but also like understand the technical back end to the extent where you understand how important it is to have things like two-way integrations. Like, if you're actually going down this path, again, sorry, slight tangent on this, but really do understand the power of having two-way integrations. It means that you have one database. And if anyone has any questions on this, happy to take them at the end. But really important thing to keep your mind focused on.
Amazing. So those are kind of a bunch of different strategies on getting documents into Hubdoc. What I would return to is like develop your own onboarding template, right? Develop the best practice for perhaps your firm or perhaps certain subsets of clients at your firm who have unique issues, right? Make it dead simple for them, explain them their continuous responsibilities, just going to make the relationship far easier and really allow you to capture that data accurately, efficiently.
I think the beauty is once it's kind of set up, set and forget. If once it's set up, it's done. Not the heavy lifting, but the hard work in actually just attaching the logins is done. And then guess what? You don't need to do next month.
Completely.
And the month after.
And that's I guess a really good segue into what Tim is doing. So I'm just going to grab Tim here, and we're going to hand over the presentation to Tim. And he's going to get into sort of a bit of the connective tissue between Hubdoc, Xero, and Futrli. So you're good.
Well, that set and forget comment is quite relevant because set and forget until you're reminded or alerted is probably what I'd say. Just while we're talking about Hubdoc moving into Xero, I just everywhere now. Is that a maple leaf in my background there? Like everywhere I see it, it's just like Canada all the way. But so basically, the way I've set it up, this is just me. This is a lot of my personal stuff flowing through Hubdoc, and I just wanted to show you, it's not just businesses that this is powerful for. Like, I am a little bit particular about my accounts. Being an accountant in the past, I love to still produce my own management reports. But that being said, this is so powerful for individuals as much as it is for small businesses as well. So this is an email that I get quite regularly these days from Hubdoc alerting me to a document that has been fetched. Now, the great thing about this is if I'm working on a client such as Gray's Catering here, I can actually, I know that when a bank statement's been fetched, I can actually go and start work on that month-end job or that quarter-end job. It actually alerts me. It basically triggers me to start work. It triggers me to start the process. So then what I do is I naturally navigate to Hubdoc. I'll log into Hubdoc, and the view that you're seeing here is actually the view that that as a partner of Hubdoc, you'll actually be able to see this view, and you'll have a full list of your clients in this view. So then you can navigate to any of your clients' file. Now, again, the thing I love about this, and probably the easiest way to sell this, is if you say to your clients, how much do you love having to remember 15 different passwords or even more, 20 different passwords or 20 different platforms, or how much do you love when your bookkeeper or accountant calls you up and says, hey, haven't spoken to you for a couple of months, but like would really love that statement. Oh wait, so you didn't want to actually have a chat about how my business is performing and blah 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 blah. No, I just need your bank statement. Oh, okay, right, I'll get onto that. I'll work out how to get it to you, and you know, that's a drama for them. The selling point for this for me is all about this fetching, all about this collation, all about the filing. It's really incredibly powerful. So yeah, the fact that you can see there, like that was my previous address. This is my current address. It knows exactly which file is which. If I go into my bank, hopefully it's not going to show you a statement, but it knows that historically I've had 10 bank accounts. Now I'm not that rich, so you know, oh, there's one. But it knows how many bank accounts I've had. It pulls in the CSV file. That's what I wanted to show you. It pulls in the CSV file. So you know, if depending on what subscription you're using within Xero, you can upload this CSV file if you need to. Now that is so powerful, incredibly powerful. So it gets processed through here. If I look at something, you know, even your Netflix, Telstra, if I look at something here, I can see this has been paid. It's been set as paid. It's been pushed through to the Xero file. Now I'm going to jump into Xero, which is the next tab I've got along here. And I can jump straight in and do some reconciliation. So some reconciling. So basically straight into here, I can see that there's a bank rule here being applied, another bank rule, a bit of machine learning here, another bank rule, and again a bit more machine learning. So straight away I've been able to code some transactions so quickly. And I'm just going to throw back to referencing Clifford in Dubbo. He's probably going to correct me on this, but he was around about 800 bank rules he set up for one of his clients.
Oh, so
that's pretty impressive. And so I think that he probably spends less than a couple of seconds a week doing that coding, which is incredibly powerful. So, you know, there's so much power within Xero. I want people to actually, you know, ask questions about Xero, but today I'm focusing on the workflow and really just getting to the point where we can give advice in the fastest, most accurate, most timely, essentially most efficient way possible. So, you know, for that sake, definitely we can jump into reports and show you a bunch of things in there, but I'm really excited to get into Futrli. So basically, once I code those transactions, again, you know, it's essentially a set and forget until you're alerted model. Futrli has incredible power, and it actually pushes alerts straight through to my email account. But even better than that, it pushes alerts into Xero HQ. Now, I think this is game changing for particularly for practices that are on top of this data processing, you know, monthly reporting, quarterly reporting, you know, regular advisory piece. This is incredibly powerful. You know, the second that I reconcile something and it gets processed through the system, if I've set up some parameters in Futrli to monitor those accounts, could be budget accounts, and like Stuart will touch on it in a moment, but it could be anything, could be ratios, you know, you could say quick ratio or, you know, debt to equity, whatever it is. But the second it monitors the system and it's gone outside of the parameters you've set, it'll send an alert directly into Xero HQ for it. So for all those people that are sort of saying, you know, I haven't really used the activity tab that much yet, really start to get involved with how it will actually impact your workflow and the timeliness of actually receiving that information. You know, traditionally it might have been 3 months, 6 months, a year before we actually changed something, before we did something. But yeah, these days it's live. You know, it's something that appears instantaneously, and we can be reactive, or you know, it might be just something that even gives us peace of mind in the background. That's, you know, that's enough for me to see the benefit, because you know, quite often you want to always make sure you're giving the best to your clients, but you just not knowing sometimes is right. The biggest thing. So then, you know, straight from there we can click on view, and this will take us straight into Futrli alerts, which I think is just, again, is the creme de la creme of workflow, of workflow efficiency. And you know, again, there's so much more to that story, but in terms of effectiveness, in terms of time, that is the best.
It's so cool as well, especially because I imagine most people joining us today have multiple clients, you know, maybe tens, maybe hundreds. You know, I think part of this opportunity to you know, increase workflow efficiency, but also awareness in terms of, you know, most businesses have different targets, different thresholds, different key performance indicators they need to monitor, but also just crucial parts of the business. And if you've got this automated workflow, in which case, if anything grows or reduces, whether that's a ratio, if it's even just a dollar value in an account, and in your example there, you know, you've overspent this quarter in utility bills, you know, that's just a good indicator for you to be able to say, or pick up the phone to that client who you might only meet once a quarter, and actually offer them a little bit of insight as it's actually happening. And I think traditionally, again, from speaking with you know, anywhere from 10 to 30 partners or you know, accountancy firms and bookkeepers pretty much every week, you know, the consistent kind of patterns we see is that they generally meet their clients around those kind of crucial compliance deadlines. So it's quarterly, it's half yearly, it's annually, and actually what technology and the cloud is actually creating is an opportunity to speak to your clients as regular as they need to be spoken to.
Yeah. So imagine, like, simple example, the other day, one of the partners was saying to me, you know, I was sitting down with one of my tradies and I said to him, mate, you just don't have the cash flow.
Yeah.
I know all your mates have bought utes, and, you know, I know it looks like a bloody amazing opportunity, but I'm telling you, you don't have the cash flow. You know, keep with your 1987 Hilux for now, and in like 3 or 4 months time, we'll revisit. And like straight away the next day he goes in and buys the ute. And you know, but instantaneously he was alerted that had happened. So, you know, he could get the client back in and say, hey, okay, thanks for not listening to me in the first place. But I'm sure there's partners out there listening right now going, you know, how many times have I told my clients not to do something, then the next thing they've gone and done is actually the opposite of what I told them. But the fact is that instead of me finding out 3 months later when he was, you know, in a position where there's no recovery, you know, and they're going to take that beautiful ute away from him anyway, he can come in the next day, the next week, and they can work out a strategy to make sure that that's not going to happen.
Correct.
That's why it's so powerful. It's amazing.
100%. And I think what I guess just to expand on what we've gone through, you know, I, like myself, as Tim said, I use these tools for myself. I'm getting married next year. It's just an insane amount of money it's going to cost me. So actually being able to forecast, you know, my living expenses, the cash flow, the amount of money me and my partner need to actually put aside to make sure the wedding actually happens, it's insanely powerful for that visualization. And that's essentially what Futrli, combined with the other products, is actually going to enable you to do. Now, the alert engine, which we've kind of alluded to already, that is how you get that real-time, cloud-based kind of proactive visibility over your entire portfolio. Now, everything can be fully customized to your level of specificity or to the actual client's specificity. So if it's a specific target they've set themselves for revenue, if it's bank covenants that they need to monitor as part of some financing that they've got, any of those things can be monitored using that kind of that real-time data flow with, you know, Xero and Hubdoc on the other end. But actually enriching that, and I think the topic of discussion is how do you turn this into insights? Well, if you've got the ability to identify where there's weakness or strength, that gives you something you can pick up the phone for. It gives you a reason to contact the client, maybe unannounced, maybe before you're due to actually catch up, but then transform that standard kind of financial compliance general, you know, view, the P&L, the balance sheet, transform that into a data rich kind of dashboard in which your clients have a greater understanding of what they're looking at. You know, you're moving away from that traditional wall of numbers, which we all know and love inside out, but in a way which is super flexible, allowing you to tweak it in a way that actually resonates with the individual that you're talking to, or allows you to kind of standard template this if this is a potential new process which you might look to implement, to just really pick up and hone in on the key pain points or the key ratios which are currently being monitored, and use that as leverage to start to look at a little bit more industry depth or a little bit more specific things which you may or may not actually have spoken to your clients about already. And the only way you're ever going to get those opportunities is actually if you have those conversations, or you have that, you have the data to be able to provoke or kind of start to
and you're taking
questions.
this to essentially the next level. You know, we've just said let's get you away from that annual compliance piece, because you know, you know, the traditional model is, you know, don't worry about source documents, let's focus on annual compliance. You know, we've taken the conversation initially to let's try and get you down to monthly, quarterly, and this platform, like particularly Futrli, and the way that it interacts with, you know, the entire workflow, actually then takes it to, you know, almost a live basis. It's not even monthly or quarterly, it's like daily or weekly. So, you know, it's really powerful. And that's where I think, like, if you're actually looking at this workflow, is you know, really try to understand where you're at as a business, try to understand where your team's at, try to understand where your clients are at, and then build a solution initially to suit that. You know, you don't have to dive straight into the daily conversations.
Sure.
But certainly, like, start with, you know, your quarterly, your monthly. Work with Futrli, work with Xero to work out the best structure for that, because, you know, and again, you know, there are cost-effective solutions for everything.
Sure.
There are solutions for each different type of client that you've got as well. So, you know, and then eventually, naturally, you will end up at a place where you basically can't get away from using something like Futrli to
well,
run
exactly.
your
It seems like, you know, all of this is on a journey to making you, you know, indispensable to your clients, right?
Yeah.
The value you're going to be providing
Absolutely.
is astonishing.
And I think, as you said, using real-time or live data as it's happening might not always be the smartest move. You know, if there are other processes which still require a bit of human intervention, maybe, you know, but having the awareness to be able to say, all right, well, I know this is a problem and it's continuing to be a problem. So I now have good hard facts and evidence to say to my client, this is a continual problem which I've been monitoring for you behind the scenes. And what you're really doing is actually just letting some of the tools that you've got in your ideal tech stack help you with that heavy lifting on scale. If you've got 20 clients, 50 clients, 2,000 clients, the number is almost irrelevant. It's giving you the awareness that the next time you sit down with your client, you're able to offer something of extra value, additional insight, which your client is not expecting, which is part and parcel of, I guess, the service we provide.
I think that, like, just on that, I think that, you know, one thing that is not recognized enough throughout the industry is how powerful accountants and bookkeepers are. You know, if I go into little towns as far west as Cobar, you know, Gilgandra, shout out to Gilly, you know, all those tiny little towns, and if there's just even one accountant or bookkeeper in that town that's, you know, doing things through technology, they're trying their best, they're giving everything they've got, and they're endeavoring to pursue that advisory piece, there's actually an uplift. You know, it's not just, your impact is massive. Huge. And that's one thing that, like, we see from our side of the fence. Like, you'll agree with me, you'll see it from our side of the fence, but often when you're sort of every single day doing the same thing, you don't always see how much influence you as accountants and bookkeepers have on your clients' lives, on your clients' businesses, and the flow-on effect of that. Like, the flow-on effect of, you know, knowing that I can trust my accountant and bookkeeper to keep me solvent, to keep me not just solvent but thriving and growing. Like, it means that I can like focus on the rest of my life knowing that that's covered. So yeah, look, I all for it.
You know, I mean, it's obviously we're very passionate about it between us. One final thing I just wanted to share with everybody before I guess we generally open the floor out to questions. You know, it's clear we could probably speak about this all day, but you know, we appreciate everyone's got other things they need to do. What I've got on my screen here for you is just an out-of-the-box solution or a template which we've developed for you. It's topical. It's this time of year. You're due to be catching up with your clients already. You know, just by plugging data directly into Futrli, there is no setup required. We do all of the mapping based on your Xero ledger, so it's pretty much instantaneous. Albeit depending on the size of data, of course, but you've essentially got an out-of-the-box report which allows you to just, at a really high level, at a glance, just compare current versus prior year performance. Now, in that conversation, you can customize any part of this to actually be a bit more specific if required, but supplementing that with some visualization so your clients can follow, they can see, you know, the critical times of year or the previous year which have caused some of those friction points. That is a foot in the door. And it's a standard approach which you can apply to every single client as an opportunity to highlight an area of concern and try, you know, formulate some plan of attack or some solution to help alleviate those problems, you know, next year or on an ongoing basis. So it's super easy to do.
I think that's the point, is that today we haven't shown you 15 different solutions. We've shown you 3 platforms that create a whole workflow efficiency, from capturing clean, efficient, you know, accurate source documents right through to the advisory piece. that's why it's so powerful. You know, it's not something that's going to take months to set up, or a process is going to be take ages to engineer.
Yeah.
It's 3 platforms that work really well together. We are a community. We work together to help you. That is the whole point. So reach out to us. We'd love to help.
Amazing. So just some next steps on getting started before we answer everyone's questions. You may know this, but every Xero partner, every firm is entitled to their very own free Hubdoc partner account. Go to app.hubdoc.com and you can sign up for that account. You'll get contacted by one of our lovely regional territory account managers. Beyond that, we are extraordinarily excited to announce this was launched today, literally June 18th. So just by using your free partner Hubdoc account and connecting it to your Xero partner org, you will get 5 Xero partner points.
I know someone's gonna be very happy.
So if you are, just edging towards another partner level, this should definitely help you get there. Beyond that, you get 1 point for every client on Hubdoc connected to Xero thereafter. So, we know that Xero partner levels are pretty important, and we think this will go a long way into, helping you out and making your experience even better. So can actually officially say this has been launched today.
So,
today.
Yeah, wow.
Okay. Which is very, very, very exciting.
Love a surprise.
Exactly. Not here for nothing. Perfect.
Yeah, and just as a thank you for everybody, for joining us today. We'd love to kind of chat with anybody who's maybe, if you've already got Hubdoc and Xero, and your interest today was finding out the Futrli integration. Maybe you're starting at the very beginning of the process. But either way, I thank you for your time. We'd love to speak with you guys. There's a bit of a promotion offer that we're running today for everybody who's joined us. So we're wearing a lot of the onboarding and education costs for everybody, because we know, again, one of the topics today has been education. So there's a full certification which comes with the Futrli platform to help educate all of your teams on how to identify the opportunities, how to actually understand the workflows, how to actually get a return on investment. If you are going to invest time and energy into learning goods, we want to make sure that you can actually get what you're actually desiring to get out of it on the back end as well. So by all means, please go to app.futrli.com, reach out to myself or any of my team, and we'd love to kind of take you through get a bit more of a deep dive on your practice, your current pain points that you might have, and hopefully try and get you started and offer that solution.
And I'll just jump on the bandwagon while I'm feeling very generous and loving. There are some fantastic end of financial year offers out in market right now, particularly for that partner channel. So reach out to your account manager. If you don't know who your account manager is, I'm sorry about that, but if you don't know, go into HQ, go to the practice tab, right down the bottom of there, your account manager's email, mobile phone number are all there available. Reach out. They're always happy to have a chat. I got a phone call the other day at an obscene hour, and being me, I picked it up still. So that is my personal mobile number. Reach out anytime. Would love to have a chat.
Amazing. So now we're going to dive into some questions. I see there's already a bunch coming in, which is amazing. So first question from Con about Hubdoc. What is the difference between such reason for publish to Xero and publish to Xero files? A really, really great question. So the publish to Xero is the integration that creates a transaction, right? You can create a purchase, you can create a spend money transaction, credit note, etc. We'll create that transaction, attach a source document, generally for reconciliation purposes. Publish to Xero files is another part of the integration. It is by no means required, but is an option. So from the destinations tab, if you check the box, publish to Xero files, what that allows you to do is publish a source document to the Xero files inbox. So I brought up an example of pushing through a bank statement to the inbox so that people can access it. Really great tool to do that. Clearly, you don't want to create a transaction from a bank statement, but you'd like to have it there as an option. And so that's kind of the primary difference. Another great question was, is there a crossover between Hubdoc and Xero expenses? We get asked this a lot, maybe surprising to some. No, there is no crossover. no crossover whatsoever. Xero expenses are for tracking and reimbursing employee expenses. Hubdoc is generally for business expenses. So, you know, the corporate credit card, the business card that the, you know, one of the either founders is using, but business expenses heading to the business and not employee reimbursables. Question from Alexis: does the release of Hubdoc to Xero partner points apply to only new partner subscriptions or for existing? Great question. Should have brought that up. Existing as well. So you don't not get to take part in that if you had clients obviously signed up before this release today. It will apply retroactively, and I've had that confirmed by the marketing team. So I know we are running over time. We've taken up over an hour of your time. Tim's going to come in with some last words here, but
I just wanted to say one question also is in there about feeding through bills from Hubdoc. I only showed like the reconciliation, but if you want to see it in more depth, I only did a real light version of it today. So definitely reach out to either one of us. I'd love to take you through it in depth. It is really comprehensive. So absolutely, that question about bills, great question. Feeding through to Xero.
I think just to follow it up, like signing up for your free Hubdoc account will get you a conversation with one of our account managers who's extremely knowledgeable on bringing it through the platform, which is great.
I've just seen one final question here then from Jason in relation to how we compare with some of our competitors. And look, it's a question we get asked an awful lot. It's a fairly competitive space, if you like. I mean, the key difference from our side is we're a forecasting app first, and a big part of what we've tried to talk about today is if you can streamline your efficiencies around collecting and filing data, you free up the opportunity to do more advanced work around forecasting, budgeting, cash flows, management, reporting. The biggest and single difference between us and all of our competitors is we're a single faceted engine. So within one roof, you've got a dashboard, a management report, a consolidation, the alert feature, which is unique, and of course, the forecasting engine. So you've got all of that functionality all under one roof, which means you only need to learn one product between yourselves or your teams. Not only that, we pull live data every single day, which is super granular from Xero. We're the only vendor to do that in the entire reporting and forecasting space because we're the only ones with that type of API connection through Xero. So it doesn't matter if you've got huge clients who only require monthly and quarterly reports, or if you've got small businesses, cafes, bars, restaurants, shops, businesses who actually need support more regularly, weekly, fortnightly, 4 or 5 weekly, whatever the case, we actually allow you to facilitate that level of reporting as well as some of the higher level and the more summary level stuff, which the bigger businesses are used to. So that's 3 pretty key ones: the integration, the single platform with all the functionality, and I guess the ability to actually go deeper for your wider portfolio. Just means that actually you've got a cloud-based solution which is fully integrated. It collects the data for you, and as we've said a couple of times, it's set and forget. The reports live in the cloud, they can be shared in the cloud. If you'd like to know more, Jason, again, I'll potentially reach out to you directly, and I'd be happy to take you through it online so you can see it in a bit more depth, but hopefully that answers your question.
And just for the sake of getting through all the questions you're asking, which are all fantastic, one question here is why use bank rules in Xero if the transactions are flowing in automatically from Hubdoc? It is about data verification. So, even Nicole touched on it earlier when I was speaking to her about just making sure that, you can buy petrol from one of the, Caltex, and you've picked up a few groceries as well. That doesn't always mean like things like the GST account and all that are absolutely correct. So things flowing through from Hubdoc is probably my preference, to be honest. But using bank rules for very generic transactions will save a lot of time, a lot of hassle, particularly if your clients are in the habit of coding things to really interesting places and creating new accounts and those kind of things. By creating those bank rules, it just saves quite a lot of confusion and frustration. So in terms of actually getting the balance and the mix right, again, reach out, let's have a chat. I'm happy to talk you through it in more detail, but there are reasons to use both and or separately.
I think office expenses is a fairly misused account.
Yeah.
In any case, we've taken up well over an hour of everyone's time today. I'd like to, say a massive thank you to everyone once again. Can't believe the turnout. Can't believe the kind of attention throughout it.
There's still well over 100, almost 200 people still online, even though we've overrun as well. So yeah, I think I guess I regurgitate that. You know, it's huge. Thank you from everybody for the engagement, for the questions, for sticking with us. You know, it's you know, something we're obviously all extremely passionate about, and you know, I think anybody still here is equally as passionate, and there's an opportunity, I think, you know, for everybody to kind of change and make some positive impact on yourselves, your clients, and everyone else involved.
Amazing.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Well, I'm sure we'll be seeing many of you soon, but thanks again.
Thanks, everyone.